welcome one and all, welcome to the show. Now, you guys know how I do. Dimension K here with a brand new Dimension Showcase. And I'm bringing the guns out this time. Literally. Or maybe I should say they're bringing themselves out. Yeah, those are legs. And we'll see where this is going. And now what's happening up here? Somebody is actually writing this thing. Yo, I'm not being too dang literal, right? But yeah, title of the video notwithstanding, as I'm finished whipping this sketch out, we clearly have somebody who has mounted this mechanical monstrosity. Now, I didn't come up with anything for this. It was just a bare bones idea, a skeleton, if you will. But therein lies the beauty of the dimension. We explore it, right? So we can further now explore this, and I can add some meat to these bones, so to speak. With the previous video, it was an entry into the hunters theme, and that's basically what we were talking about. Hunters, bounty hunters. I don't really see that for this guy. I see this guy as, regardless of whether it's popular or not in this day and age, is more of a lawman, an agent of justice, if you will. And I don't necessarily see him as a sheriff. I see him more as a ranger. The kind of individual who actually has the latitude to just go out on the plains and hunt down the disreputables and find them and drag them back in by the scruff of their necks. Whereas, a sheriff is kind of landlocked. They have to take care of that town. The ranger has, well, range, if you will. So that means they can be a bit more effective. And I mean, if you're running around on something like this, I guess you are a pretty effective agent of the law. Yeah. So now that we've discovered some of his deal, let's push this dimensional exploration a bit further and turn our attention to his trusty steed. Obviously, I'm using the term metaphorically because clearly that's not a horse. But appropriate references are appropriate, so keep with that. Now, I'm going to do this a little later, but I don't want to spend the rest of this video referring to this thing in technical terminology. So from this point, we'll just call this the cult. Like 45. And if you're old enough to know what that means, well, then you're old enough to know what that means. Moving on. The cult. Admittedly, its design was pretty much already there in my head. It was kind of like a Aphrodite moment, like spring fully formed. But I found myself reaching back to some of my old Japanese anime. And I gotta say, those earlier designs in terms of their mech execution, phenomenal. The fact that they would have this situation where a plane would turn into a robot and then show how this could happen. I remember coming on to some technical guides for certain animes or Japanese manga or whatnot that dealt with mech, and these were hand drawn. Now these technical guides literally showed how whatever the robot is could turn into whatever other form it was going to turn into, and within the technical guide they would show you the phases, how this particular part moves here and this folds into that and that extends out, and this is how you get from plane to robot. It's just phenomenal. So bringing that to this, as now we're moving into the cast shadow stages, it was the same thing. I'm looking at the leg assembly and I'm thinking, okay, with the way that it is right now, these legs, they can flex, they can bend and whatnot. And I get to the mentality that they should be able to take on certain positions so that they can angle the barrel to give it a wider range of targeting, if you will. And even more so, they can set themselves, because obviously you got to handle that kickback when that hammer comes. So you got all of these different pistons and whatnot going on. And then we go and we take that over to what would have been the trigger, which has been replaced by these hoses. Now, as you can see, there's a tank in the back. It looks like a turbine or whatnot. There's actually a pair. To me, those are the bread and butter of the actual design, because they work as not only a coolant system, but a counterbalance. Coolant system in that I'm envisioning there's a turbine, and that thing is actually, those tanks, I should say, are actually full of water, and they cycle through the hoses. And obviously, you're going to need that for cooling, possibly some hydraulic movement with the legs or whatnot. And that water is going to constantly cycle in, cycle out, cycle in, cycle out, and it's most likely going to need to be cooled. So you got those fans going on, or at least going on whenever the Colt is active. And what's cool about that is they also work as a counterbalance. Very important again, as I said, because think about it. Without that, this Colt wouldn't be able to lift its barrel. It'd be perpetually aimed at the ground. And that's not going to do anybody any good, especially the Ranger. It's now moving into the flat stage. I think it's important for me to address something that I probably should have earlier. Contrary to what you're seeing on the screen, I am not a gun nut, nor am I a gun detractor. I see them simply as tools, and a tool can only do what a tool is implemented to do. As badass as the Colt is, it's not going to get up, drive, and fire itself. It would need the Ranger to do that. Just something to keep in mind. So then I guess the next logical question is, well, if that's the case, then why did you do this? And to that I say, well, can't you hear it in my voice? Because this was fun. Yes, it was. Now, if you've been following the channel, you know I'm big on the concept of juxtaposition. This is no different. We've got an obvious Western motif going on here, and it's been married to something of a much higher technological slant. I guess that would make the cowboy hat and boots something more akin to window dressing. Think about it. It says a lot about the mechanical prowess of this world if you find yourself looking down the hill and this thing is coming up at you. I would haul ass. But seriously, I'm on ArtStation, plug, and I go through the feed and, I see some really phenomenal stuff. There's some dangerous people out there art-wise. But when I see all that stuff, something weird happens. A switch closes, and I'm thinking to myself, man, they look like they're having fun. I want to have fun too. I look at some comments from other users whose skills might not be where they think they are, and it's the same situation I hear when I read this. These people, they're not having fun anymore. So caught up in trying to figure out how somebody else is having fun that they've literally forgotten how to have fun themselves. I mean, look at it like a game of hokey pokey. You put your left foot in. I put my left foot in, but I don't want to take it out. Why? Because I'm having too much fun. That's how that works. Something else to keep in mind. But with all that said, return back to what's going on here as I'm laying it in with this chalk brush. I need to do a video where I'm speaking more process than I'm just trying to be inspirational or anecdotally witty. But either way, I want to address one thing else about this before, we wrap it all up and get out of here. I know this may be a little bit of overkill. There's somebody out there saying, come on, dude, he's just riding a big gun. But keep this in mind. I didn't draw the bad guys. I haven't shown you who he's after. You don't know what they have. Didn't draw that. That dragon could be super huge and something that's rather difficult to slay. And so thus he decided to bring this bad boy out with him into the field. So yeah, I would like to think that that actually says a lot about what he could potentially be facing. Maybe their barrel's bigger, or maybe they just got more barrels. I don't know. Moving this background around and whatnot, I want to give it more of a airy feel, like he's actually traversed some serious height to go and find these individuals and make the wrong right. Because he is the Ranger, and the Ranger is, wait for it, the Barrel Rider. Hope you had fun, because it's obvious I did. And if so, you know the drill. Check those socials, ArtStation, Instagram. Like, subscribe, share, tap a bell, tell a friend, work a thumbs button. Either way, I'll see you brave explorers out here on these dusty plains later. Till then.